This is the Growth Podcast. My name is Aaron Shiviterese, and I'm here with my guest today, Kelsey Moore. She's a video presence coach, which is awesome. We all need to hear about that. She's been featured on Yahoo, Thrive Global, Medium, and USA Today. Kelsey, welcome to the Growth Podcast. Happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're having fun already. We haven't even started.
We are. We've been having a good time before this started.
Absolutely. Yeah, right. Well, I'm excited to chat with you because video, as we were talking about before, it's massive, right? It's massive for engagement. It's massive for providing value. It's massive for people to get to know you. I'm going to let you talk all about that, of course. But before we get into all that, can you just tell us a little bit about you? Who is Kelsey? Where are you from? A little bit of your background, please.
Sure. So I'll try to keep the mini version. So I was like, tell me your whole life story. I'm like, okay, let's get into it. And so
it was 1983.
I was not born yet, but we can start. We can start there. No.
Yeah, sorry. 93.
Closer. Oh, so funny. I was born in 89.
Here we go.
Yeah. So the day I was born. No, but really, my story that this journey kind of started in an old tuberculosis hospital in a correctional facility. So it is kind of that dramatic type of tale. But I was working as a case manager in a correctional facility, actually. After college, it was the first job I took. I started off as a teacher in that, and then eventually took on the position of a case manager, which essentially just kind of runs the lives of about 25 adult male felons. And it was a fascinating position. I like to think that I did some good and made a difference. I tried, and it completely depleted me. I became very depressed, very angry, very cynical, and had the wherewithal to realize that was happening and really started to make decisions to change my life and not stay in that and continue to go down that like angry path, which a lot of people do. And it results in some really horrifying results, as we all know, and anything inside that field. And it really did. There was one night where I had a client who some clerical error happened down at the front desk. It was something very easily fixable that we could remedy, but clerical errors in that field are extremely important. They can be very detrimental. So you have to see them, catch them, recognize it, and fix it. So he was a client who had a huge anger problem anyway. He had just been released out of like 25 years of prison for murder. A very high temper guy, and storms into my office. It's like 9 p.m. at night. There's rain coming in through my window in this old dingy building that used to be the tuberculosis hospital. Like it was pretty much as dramatic as you could picture it. And just started screaming all of the anger at me. And I was maybe like 22 and just feeling it in a way where I was like, man, this job sucks. Like, I don't like this. Why did I choose this? Why am I here doing this? Like, I don't want the next 40 years of my life to be this. And all of that's kind of happening while he's just screaming at me. And I like literally didn't know how this was going to go. I'm trying all the techniques I know of de-escalation and calm voice and like calming the situation, but I'm like reaching for a pair of scissors. Like, I don't know. And we're able to calm the situation down. I had a coworker walk by in that moment and remove him from my office, and we fixed all the errors. Like everything was fine, but it was such a click moment for me. And I think we have a lot of those throughout our lives. And that just triggered the series over the next like 5 years of what do I want from my life? What makes me happy? What are the things that I'm interested in? Start leaning into that, start going towards the stuff that makes me excited, makes me happy. And like, that's the future I want to create. And so I started writing down a list, and one of those things was acting. I loved acting as a kid. I love film and movies and brilliant storytelling and the magic that can come through, and transformation and life-changing experiences we can have through film, through good storytelling, through sharing our actual essence and our journeys and what we've been through in an authentic and powerful way on camera. And 2 weeks after that incident, I Googled like auditions in Colorado, the super tertiary market. And I went to an indie film audition and I booked the lead role. And from that moment on, I was like, this is going to be part of my life. This is going to be part of my future. And, I'm now represented in multiple regions and dozens of like indie films and commercials and industrials and all these things. But over that 5 years, really learning online marketing, the freedom that comes with being an entrepreneur. The struggle is massive, but the possibility is endless. And so if you build in that fortitude and have that massive reason why and some bigger passion and purpose behind it, and you know that you can help other people in some way, like it's just transformative. And while I was learning everything about acting, while I was learning everything about being an entrepreneur, building a digital business, I was really diving into personal development. And personal development changed my life. It saved my life. It changed the game for me. I had never heard of mindfulness or meditation before, being aware of our thoughts instead of thinking we are our thoughts, taking that time to step outside and realize we are the thinker, we're the soul behind it. And finally, really about a year and a half ago or so is when those three circles of kind of what made up the most of how I spend my time and my passions merged together. And I was like, I can help other entrepreneurs going through this journey become great and authentic and brilliant and powerful on camera to get their message across in a way that's going to help them feel free and share their story and what they've been through in a powerful way. And we're going to found it, but like foundation is going to be built upon personal development in the way of, if you believe in yourself and you believe in your message and you are intentionally creating and designing the future that you want, all of the business stuff is going to become so much easier. That's the shortest way
Oh,
out of that story.
all
That's
right.
still pretty long.
Whew, that's awesome though. All right. So thanks for joining us on the Growth Podcast. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
No, but it's perfect. I mean, you touched on so many amazing pieces there. Everything from how you broke away from what you were doing all the way to this last piece, which we're going to dive into in a sec, because that's where the heavy value lies there. People finding their voice and things like this, right?
Yeah.
But before we get into that sort of stuff, let's just backtrack slightly, if you would. When you were leaving this job, because this is a big thing. I know my audience and myself and you, we've all been through this moment in time when you were like, this is not for me. I need to do something else. I need to do something more fulfilling. I need to follow my passions, my dreams. I want to do something else, whatever that something is. We don't know, right? Everybody's different.
Yeah.
In that moment, you had that gentleman come into your office screaming at you and stuff. And then you went home that night, right? And that's when the heavy decision making starts, right? When you're alone with your thoughts and you're like, okay, well, how am I going to do that? What am I going to do? So if you can think back, when you were transitioning from that to going to your first acting job and then moving forward, in that transitional time, you said you went deep into personal development, and that's when you started probably awakening to yourself and your superpowers, right?
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about some of the struggles or some of the resistance that you found yourself possibly sabotaging yourself in these situations, because as we grow, we always want to sabotage ourselves and bring us back to safety. That job was safe for you. You made money. You knew what you were doing. You knew your role. You know what I mean? As you were growing and expanding, do you recall any resistance coming in, anything trying to stop you? And how did you smash through that and actually push on to the other side and become who you are today? Not a big enough question. Not a big enough question, I know.
But oh man, huge amounts of resistance every single step. The way I've described it a few times is it's like we quit on our dreams and on ourselves so many times. You just have to find that that like the cosmic part of you that is so much more than our known human fears, and like click into that to believe in yourself one more time after the last time you quit, because that resistance is a hard wall that each new little step outside our comfort zone, each new little growth level is like you just smack right into it. And that night particularly, why it stands out as such a pivotal night, because I had plenty of nights that were like that were dramatic. I mean, much more extreme things than just somebody yelling at me. Like I had a razor blade thrown at me one time and all this other stuff. And it's like, but this stood out because I sat in my office after that for a while, for maybe an hour, and I started writing down a list of a physical list of things that made me happy. And I started Googling how to make this real. And it was that action step. It was that little action of writing it down and starting to look it up that made it real and made it like, I actually do have a choice. Like I actually have more power in my life than I'm letting myself be aware of. Because I feel like so often we do the things that we think we're supposed to and we should on ourselves and we should on our lives, and are like, okay, well, this made sense at the time for the path that I was on. So therefore it always has to be this way. No, like, no, it doesn't always have to be that way. And there have been so many times where it's just been kind of like sitting in the complete unknown and terror and having, I mean, I remember I even at one point like took a screenshot of my bank account. It's like, I never want to forget this moment where I have $7, like literally $7 in my bank account. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, this is so hard. I like, would there be months when it's like choosing between which bills do we pay, and taking my husband on this journey with me, where he's kind of like, all right,
Yeah.
this is tough, and having somebody with a like unfailing belief in me is a miracle.
Mm,
That's the magic of love. That's amazing.
mm.
Not that we haven't had our struggles working through that together. We've had times where it's been very challenging, and that's something that we have to work through. And it all comes from like allowing yourself to sit in the unknown and the uncertainty and really tapping into that belief where it's like, this drive and this journey and these particular things that have happened are for me. This has been put into my path for a reason. I'm given this desire for a reason. Like, it's not just to taunt me and mess with me. Like, this is here for a purpose. And so the more that I lean into unfolding and revealing that purpose, like that's how I get to that each next little step, that next little tiny action step to take. And that's like it's a trudging feeling at times, and then something clicks and you'll have like that, oh, okay, finally something's a little bit easier, and then you hit the next wall, and it's okay, because then you just chip away at it again and you sit in that discomfort and you figure out, why is this happening? What are the things that are kind of uncomfortable here, and what can I do about it? How can I reframe this? How can I look at this in a different way to see how can I move through this? And it's like, feel it, acknowledge it, take action on it is really the only way that I think I know how to move through stuff.
Yeah, true. You're giving me goosebumps, actually. You know that?
Oh, good.
Yeah, true.
Cool.
Anytime someone talks authentically about
Mm.
um, following their path and understanding that life is given to you to learn from and to grow with, not as a challenge to stop you, but a challenge to see if you're ready to step up or not, right?
Yeah, as an opportunity.
As an
It's like,
opportunity.
this
Yeah.
is really the thing that you've been asking for. You have to, in order to be able to receive the thing on the other side, like you must go through this part of the journey, like to be able to get there and to be able to handle it when you're there. One of the maybe more known ways of seeing this is where we see people, especially in like with the lottery or with sports or something, where they get all of this money, like millions or something in the fame, and then they lose it all. And it's like, sometimes I thought there's like a glitch in the matrix or something where it's like you skip over maybe some of the learning curves, or that was just one of the learning steps for them to like rebuild it then.
Mm.
And so everyone's journey and path is going to look a little bit different, but it's like we're all going to have those big boulders and milestones to work through, and that are going to feel really hard, like really hard,
Mm.
sometimes excruciatingly painful. But if it's on that path where it connects to your vision and your purpose, and like, this is my soulful drive, then it's like those are for us. Those challenges and those obstacles are for us, and we have to work through them to be able to handle what's on the other side.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. You're speaking my language.
I
You're
know it's
speaking
not
my
even really
language.
about video, but
Yeah.
it's all
It
all
will
part of
be.
it.
It will be.
Mhm.
Yeah, but it's all part of it. It's important
Mhm.
for myself and the listeners and the viewers and the audience in general to understand how you get to where you are, right? Because
Yes.
you look at you look at your Instagram, you look at your business model and everything you're doing, you're amazing, you're all over the place, like you're doing very well, and it's like, oh yeah, she's doing
Thank you.
awesome. But like
That
it's
means a lot. Thank you.
yeah, no, of course, but you are. It's amazing. So that's cool, but it's really important to understand that everybody's just human and everybody goes through struggles to get where they are. And it's an ever going, ever evolving journey. It never stops.
Yes.
Right. And the problems and the difficulties actually get bigger as you grow, your challenges become more because you can take on more. Right.
Yeah.
So I really love to get this from you before we get into the business, because I want to give context to the success, right? Because I want people to understand that they can do it too, right?
Yes.
Everybody can do it. If you put your mind to it and you actually have a dream, as one of my mentors says, if your dream is bigger than your excuses, right? You
Yeah.
can do these things and you will face struggles. And it's great. I'm loving hearing that you have your husband behind you. I have my wife behind me. She supports me on everything I do, no matter how crazy and ridiculous it sounds. She's like, "Yep, that sounds good. Go for it."
Yep.
And I'm like, "All right,"
Cool.
But I guess here's one question I have for you. When you were going through all of this and you were breaking through and you were diving deep into personal development and things like that, as far as the personal development journey goes, maybe for those listeners out there who are like newer to the journey, right?
Mm.
What are some of the, if you can recall, or some of your all-time favorites, or, books or resources or mentors or gurus or people that you follow or like? Is there anyone in particular that made a big impact on you that you'd like to share with us?
There's so many.
Yeah, there's like a
So
500,
many.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually the very first online course I built, which I now often share as a bonus, is, and the tech and everything in the beginning is terrible and all the all the things, but the content. But I made a personal development course, and it was basically the compilation of hundreds of videos and books and podcasts and everything. I was like, these were the pieces that's like stuck with me. And I was like, I put all of this here, speaking through this to reach you where you're at, because I remember exactly what it felt like on each one of these phases to be like, that seems crazy. That doesn't make any sense. This feels super weird. Oh, I get it now. Like those different transitions. So there really were, I mean, hundreds of
Yeah.
influences with that. But a couple of things. This one Albert Einstein quote, actually, and then I'll share a couple of thought leaders, but this is maybe my favorite quote, and it's, your imagination is your preview to life's coming attractions.
Ooh,
And I think,
love it.
it's an Einstein quote, and it just like, it sums up so much of the truth. Like, the bigger, or however big your vision and imagination is, like that expands what's available to you. That's like where your opportunities come from, is by you kind of being able to open up that expansion to be willing to see it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does.
And I
Absolutely.
just, that was one of those quotes where it was like, when that kind of sunk in, I was like, man, my imagination's big. I have a
Yeah.
lot of ideas in there. Like, let's go do this.
Yeah.
And so right now I feel like tiny, 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 small. Like I'm on level like 2 out of 100. I don't know. Like I so much I want to do. And it's like each one of those steps that gets me closer there. I get really impatient and all of these things. But I'm like, I just want to sprint. But it's mountain. Like you can't really sprint up a mountain. You get really tired and you sit down for a bit. And one of the first voices that really resonated with me, a thought leader in kind of personal development and manifestation particularly, is Catherine Zenkina, Manifestation Babe. And she had a way of tying in the extreme spirituality with a sort of a luxurious lifestyle, with travel, with business, with money, in a way, because it was relating the being that we are, but seeing that we're in a physical body, and because we're in this physical plane, we are meant to experience the delights, like the fun things that we want, the luxuries that we're interested in. Like those are given to us then for a reason. And she merged it in such a way that it helped me really hear it for the first time. And so she would definitely, I think, be someone that I've just leaned on a ton.
That's amazing. I love it. What was her name again?
Catherine Zenkina, Manifestation Babe.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So, yeah, let's change gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about your current business model and everything you're doing and how you're serving your clients. So talk to us a bit about how you discovered your current business direction. What's it all about?
Yeah, so I'm a video presence coach for entrepreneurs. So I know the entrepreneurial struggle. Like I know exactly what that feels like, and all the pieces that you're working on building and serving your clients. And video is simply, like we were talking about before, it's it's no longer optional. It's so imperative. And all of, the millions of people that are online that are working on getting clients on the internet, that are wanting to build a brand or do any sort of marketing online where it's so visual, you have to use video. It's really a must. It's just imperative. And that's the best way for people to read your energy and really be able to sink in your message and what you offer faster than anything else. It builds know, like, and trust faster than anything else. And even if somebody's watching your video on silent and you just have the subtitles scrolling across the bottom, they can still experience and feel your energy through that, like through the lens, through watching you and seeing how genuine are you by the way that your eyes light up, by the way that your voice has inflection, by the way that your hands move. Like, all of these different things give cues to the audience, the receiver, if they're a good match for you. Because sometimes you're going to watch a video and be like, oh, that was polarizing just because I don't like that they never smiled, or they smiled too much. Like, we see that's good. That's polarity. That's good. That helps us shape who our audience is. And being in front of camera isn't a innately natural thing for humans to be like, I'm going to share all of my true, authentic essence and energy to that little glass and metal box, like this pinhole robot, like it's an inanimate object. Like, it's not a natural thing, Right, exactly. Like, we're so used to, like, we can take selfie pictures, but it's like, okay, but now speak your business message, speak to your ideal client, share, your sole purpose and like the things that you love, and share it in a completely authentic way with your energy and essence. And people are like, no, thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, thank you. It's so true. Hey, it's so true. Funnily enough, when I came into the online space about a year and a half ago, again, one of my mentors, I always speak about my mentors. I always give them credit all the time because I love them and they help me so much in so many different ways. One of my mentors told me, he said, when you expose your naked soul and you're speaking your authentic truth, people can feel it.
Yes.
Vibrationally. And I'm like, yeah. Of course they can. Makes sense. We're big fans of quantum physics and all these things, as you are as well. Right.
Yep.
So, you go down that road and you're like, okay, like attracts like. So yeah, if I'm being authentic and true, they're going to feel it and they're going to intuitively know that this is actually me. This is what I'm doing here. Right. No mask. And he was like, so, if you can remove the mask, because everyone has a mask on, you go to one event, you act a certain way. You go somewhere else, you act a certain way. You're around certain people, you talk a certain way. You go over here. The more authentic you can be all the time, obviously the better. But when it comes to video, a lot of people, this is just my perspective, let me know what you think. A lot of people talk really fast. I mean, we're not going to get into that stuff, but this is what I did. I talk really fast like this, and like that. And I was just saying what I thought they needed to hear, but I wasn't actually expressing my feelings, and I wasn't like getting deeper into what I'm actually feeling about the subject. I then transitioned full-time online, and I made a video talking about my transition and how I was so happy. And I had just gotten out of a meditation in the morning. I was at my wife's house in Russia. And I woke up in the morning, I had a very nice meditation, and it was a deep gratitude meditation. It was only a gratitude meditation. It was like an hour and a half. I went hardcore on it. And I was like, okay. And I was so deep, and I had tears coming out of my eyes, and I was meditating, going hard. I was like, oh yeah. And I came out of it and I was like, wow, I feel so good right now. I was like, you know what? I'm going to make a live video right now and talk about my experience. So I did. I went on Facebook Live and I was like, I just did a gratitude meditation and I'm feeling so good. And my mentor told me to remove my mask, and I'm not wearing a damn mask anymore. Fuck the mask. I'm being myself. I'm just going to be, and I went like that, and I just started just blabbering basically, and that was without a doubt, still to this day, no questions asked, the most viral, powerful video I've ever made. This has the most views, the most comments. People reach out to me and DM me about it. They're like, I saw your video about the mask in Russia. You inspired me for this and that. And I'm like, oh, okay. So they're connecting to the emotion that I was authentically projecting at that moment. Right? Is that what was happening? Can you explain to me from your perspective what was going on there?
Yeah. Well, people are reading and feeling your energy. I tell my clients, like, you need to show up in the energetic way that you want your audience to feel. So you're there to help serve them. So it's not about you and your insecurities and the doubts that you're feeling about, oh my God, did I do this right? Did I say this right? How do I look? How do I sound? Right? It's about showing up in the way that you want your audience to feel. And so when you can match that energetic level, that is powerful. I mean, that's that's like what makes great actors. That's what makes great entrepreneurs visually on camera. I don't want you to show up and be a news anchor version of yourself where you're stiff. I don't want you to be the host where you're like, here, like, let me take you on this tour and walk you through the city. No, I want you to be you,
Mm.
you know?
Mm.
Now, I do understand sort of a caveat of you are going to have different not masks but maybe hats or kind of as the actor in me, and you different roles that you step into, where when you're running your business you are the CEO role. So you have to have this foundation, not without, like, you absolutely, please show up with your vulnerabilities and with the challenges. Talk about those, like what we just talked about. Like, talk about the stuff that's hard, because that's going to be authoritative. That demonstrates you've been through stuff. It's going to build rapport. It's relatable. All of those things. So it's not dismissing that by any means, but it's you stepping into that role of yourself as the CEO, where I have like created this position. I've earned this. Like I've built this, so I can show up and back myself. It's building in that self-trust and backing yourself so that you show up not as the insecure version of you who's like, how do I look on camera? Did I do things right? That's constantly second guessing. But it's like, no, I am the leader of this company, of this business that I'm creating. And I'm here to share this message that is crucially important to my authentic self with you. And I'm going to speak it in a powerful way so that you can receive it. But you're not 100% of the time going to be living in that space. When you're snuggling on the couch with your spouse and your puppy, like, you're going to be a more chill version of you. If you're out at, drinks or something with some friends versus at a networking event, like, you're stepping into these different roles of yourself. But what needs to happen is that authentic foundation where you are you, no matter what, right? It's maybe a different energy output. A different energetic exchange when you're, at a business meeting or something versus visiting your grandma. She doesn't necessarily need the CEO version of you, but you do need to step into that CEO role of who it is that you truly are when you're in front of the camera. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. That makes perfect sense. That's a great explanation, actually. Very good. So go ahead, pause, rewind that last 2 minutes and listen to it again, because that was deep, but there's some complexities there. Yeah. Very good. I love it. That's amazing. Okay. So talk to us a little bit about someone who's like, they're like, okay, this sounds awesome. I need to be on video more. My company's doing well and everything, but I want to be out there more. I want to be the face. Or maybe there's like a new entrepreneur. Maybe they're like, a new coach or a new affiliate marketer or something like this. And they're like, I should be leveraging video, like, yeah,
yes, you should.
like she's right. I should be leveraging video. Why aren't I? Like, what can I do? Like, you know what I mean? So what would you tell someone how to get started on getting on video? Like, what are some of the initial steps someone should take? What should they be thinking about?
I love this question. So, there's the basics where it's like the light and framing and sound and camera. And I know you're at your parents' house right now. You don't have your normal office.
I'm
But
framed.
generally,
I'm
like,
framed though. We're framed here.
right, like a little bit above your head. You're kind of like centered. I mean, you don't want to be like completely centered. If you're watching a video, you can see my head's like in the little middle square. That looks really weird because there's all this weird empty space above. But you want to, fill the frame. You want the light to be in front of you so we can see your face. We don't want light behind you, unless you're in your old parents' house, so you can't
Talk
help
to this
that.
one.
Yeah. We need to be able to see you, hear you, have you be the center focal point, right? So those are like our basics of the technicals, where sometimes people just will convince themselves that they're stuck on that and like, I don't know what to do. It's like, light in front of you. We need to see you, hear you. Not have stuff that's too distracting in the background. This is my little office area, and the paintings I have behind me honestly really kind of demonstrate my personality and my brand. Like, it's all very artsy. That's on brand for me. So it's a little distracting, but it's also okay. Like, we've got like gold filigree and dancing, a couple of dancing images. Like, that's all my personality. So that it supports my brand.
Yeah.
But you just don't want to have stuff where it's like, can I see your dirty laundry in the back? Like,
Mm.
I'm not, am I distracted by your bookshelf and trying to like read the titles of all the books that are on there? Like, just have that kind of
Mm.
mindfulness and awareness of it. So those are some of the external things to be paying attention to, but it's the internal stuff that really matters. So this is where you need to learn the foundation of that personal development, where you are learning to back yourself, to know that you trust yourself enough to know that no matter what those fears and insecurities are that come up, that you are not actually stuck. You're just convincing yourself that you're stuck because you haven't chosen to believe in yourself enough yet to make it worth it to actually hit record and hit publish. You got to do the inner work. It's
Love it.
like,
So
and
true.
that's the thing. There's two big things that are kind of different about me than other people that teach this, which there are. We were talking about that. There's not many. There's not a lot of video presence coaches, but it's a skill every single person needs. And now, like 2020, things are changing so much where it's just crucial. And I think it's going to continue to expand. But there's two things, and it's one is that personal development. Like, you have to do the inner work. So when we talk about fear inside my course or with my one-on-one clients, we start to dig into questioning, why is that fear there? Where did it come from? And then asking yourself, and we don't have to do a whole therapy session on figuring out what happened when you were a kid. We can ask some of those questions, because then it can make it easier to dismantle it. But it's asking yourself, is this fear actually true? Is it empirically true? If it's not, then let's reword it. Let's reframe it. Let's rephrase how it is that we're experiencing and relating and attaching meaning to this fear. But if it is empirically true, then is it worth it to sacrifice your growth and your dreams for this truth of this fear?
Mm.
It's usually not.
No.
And it's usually something like, my ex will see this video. Like, that's a real thing, and I'm afraid of that. And it's like, okay. Is your ex your ideal client?
There's so many things wrong with
No,
that sentence.
so many things, but it comes up a lot. It's one of
Wow.
those. I mean, it's like when you're starting to grow that presence online, and you're like, but this person's going to see me, and honestly, like, and I talk about this because I get it. Where I talk about, it took me maybe 2 years before I used my real name online.
Mm.
I was terrified of being seen. One of the first DMs I got was some guy saying he knew where I lived and was going to come over. They're creepy. I get it. Like, but the more that you glow and you speak to the soul of your ideal audience, your ideal clients, the people that you are like, like, my soul sees your soul. Like, we are meant to work together. Like, I can help you lift you up. Those people, the more that you glow, the more the other people cannot touch you.
Mm.
Like, you are going to put out those energetic strings and resonate so strongly with those people that you are speaking to. They're going to fill your space, that like the other people are just going to fall off. It becomes so powerful and becomes so much bigger and more important than just what some of those little kind of fears and insecurities and doubts are.
Absolutely. I love it. So true.
And
So true. I was
uh,
just going to say, sorry to cut you off there.
yeah, you're good.
One saying that comes to mind that just popped into my head when you were saying that, and this was pretty huge for me when I heard it. So, yeah, all you listeners out there, open up, because this is a big one for me. This could have been one of the biggest, actually. And it also helps you with your audience, niching down your avatar. Something along the lines of, if you're willing to define yourself, no one can judge you. Right?
Yes.
That's it. That's the whole thing. When I heard that, I was like,
Oh my God,
oh,
that's so
shit.
good.
So good. I know, it's
Willing
so
to
good.
define yourself.
If you're willing to define yourself, nobody can judge you, because you've done it. You've defined you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't judge me. I'm telling you right now what I am. Right?
Yeah.
I'm a
And the good
podcast
and the
host.
bad.
I'm a podcast host
Yeah.
who had some business problems, and now I'm doing this and now I'm doing that, and that's what I'm doing. So you can't judge me, because I'm telling you what I'm doing. You know what I mean? It's that.
Yes.
And it gives you so much power. And that's a
Yes.
true, authentic vibe that's coming through, because you're just speaking truth. You're just speaking truth, and you're standing in it.
That is like, that is when people say, like, speak your truth, but speak your story, tell your story. Like, you're owning the narrative. You're owning who you are. And it's like the good and the bad, the light and the dark. Like we all have, well, multiple facets, multiple sides to us, but both of those. So it's not like, oh, I can only show the light or the good stuff. It's like,
Mm.
no, like I have my faults and flaws too.
Yeah.
And I accept myself for all of those.
Mm.
Like there are things that I can work on and change and improve, but there's also like, okay, well, this is a part of me, and I'm going to choose to love myself and accept myself anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
And it opens yourself up to growing in spaces
Yeah.
that you're now aware of and you're accepting
Yes.
and you're putting it out there. You're like, yeah, I need to grow in this area. So
Yes.
who out there has grown in this area that I can maybe possibly buy your coaching program from? Like, you
Yeah,
know, that's
right.
that's what it's like. Hey,
Right.
oh, you okay? Come over here for a second. Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So speaking of stories,
I
you
love
touched on
that.
story there for a second. Let's jump into stories, personal stories, branding, and things like this, because um, this plays perfectly into what we're talking about. Shining a light on the darkness, for example. You've gone through some
Mm-hmm.
tough times, you've had adversity, and you have a struggle. A lot of times people don't want to put that out on video because they feel like they're going to be judged, or people are going to look it down on them, or feel like, oh, you know, what an idiot, they made a mistake. Really, if those people are doing that, they're just projecting their insecurities. Don't worry about that. But for you as a person, putting out your story, if you have some dark moments and you talk about it, again, people are attracted to that because they've also gone through something similar, or just they know the feeling of being down, and they can be inspired by that and how you came back and broke through it. Essentially, that's
Mm-hmm.
what the Growth Podcast is all about. In a nutshell, that's literally what this is all about, right? So how does your personal journey, your story of where you've come from, how you got through it, where you're going, your dreams, your goals, that whole sequence, how is that considered someone's secret sauce?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, simply, it is your superpower. It is the thing that's shaped you. It is the thing that has shaped your gifts, where you are now. What you have been through is what has created where you are now, who you are now. And the way you've handled it, those are the things that you teach other people. Like that's it, your journey is what has created you. And people always ask, like, how do I stand out online? What, that's it. Like that's, you talk about you. And the way that we relay this, and particularly on film, is it's like your life is your movie, right? So you're the hero, you're the lead of your own story. You know, you're listening to your inner talk, your narrative throughout your entire life, and you're experiencing it from your perspective, and you know, hopefully growing and evolving, where you can start to realize that you're always seeing it from your own perspective, so that you can start to question it and then look at things from other people's perspectives. And that's where, you know, gets into more ethereal things, but where true power comes from is when you can step outside of your own self and your own story. But your journey as the lead character, and all of those challenges and those obstacles, the mistakes, the bad choices you've made, and then the ones that you've had the courage and the bravery, and you've moved through the fear and you've moved through the pain, like that's brought you to the point that you are now. You now, as a business owner, you become the guide, you become the Yoda, like, to help walk the next person through their journey. You know, and one of the questions you asked me, like, who are some of the mentors that have helped me? I have dozens of mentors who have helped me along on my journey. And now I just get to be one of those for somebody else.
Hmm.
And I still have so much more to go, right? Where I'm going to have a million more. But every time that we step into the hero of our own story, it gives us power, it gives us choice, it gives us conviction, it gives us purpose and direction, and all of these powerful things that then help allow us to become that guide and that helping hand for other people who are maybe a couple steps behind. And we're like, hey, I get it. I know exactly what that feels like. This is what I did. Let's work through this together.
Mm, yep.
That's your stories, how you stand out online.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the best ways, if not the best way to tell your
Is through
story
video
is
on camera.
through video on camera.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because they get the whole picture, right? It's not just
Yep.
it's just not copy, or it's not voice, you know, it's both, right? It's
And it's
both.
not just, yeah, some like, you know, static image that's one of your cool photo shoot images, which is great. And those are so fun. And I love using those, but it's so much beyond just like that here's my little perfect image. It's you and your vibrancy, your energy, your passion. We kind of talked about, speaking fast. People often talk on camera very quickly if they're really nervous or if they're really, really impassioned about something, which I get really impassioned about stuff. And but people can experience that. People can watch a video and be like, I feel it. Like, I feel your passion. I get it, and it can click and it can resonate because I'm allowing myself to be that sort of channel for the message and for the emotion, because we know emotions are what make decisions. Emotions are what make change. So if I can help share what I'm feeling to the viewer or to the listener, it's like, that's powerful. That makes a difference.
Absolutely.
That can inspire people into action, into realizing that it is possible for them too.
Absolutely. So true. Hey, so true. So throughout this journey that you've been on quite the journey, haven't you? Throughout the journey that you've been on, is there been from like an objective outside perspective, if you can, separate yourself and take a look at yourself, has there been a transformation that has happened that you're aware of now that maybe you didn't expect to happen or that you didn't foresee, but you're like, oh, wow, that actually, like a transformation that has happened within you that you just didn't expect, but you see it now present? Is there anything like that going on?
I feel like so many. I feel like a lot. Yeah. Probably the biggest one, and we'll see if this makes any sense, but the way that I think about things is very different now. The way that I see like conflict and disagreement and the way I form opinions around those things it's just very different, where it's kind of more taking that step back. And I'm an anthropologist from school, like that. I studied anthropology. I love people and culture and travel and people throughout all time and in their cultures, in their societies. And so in college is really when I kind of learned terms to it, like holistic paradigm shifting, those kinds of things. And it started to trigger this concept of like, oh my God, there are multiple ways to think. And studying all of these different religions from, spanning so many different years and so many different countries. And they almost all of them have like the exact same foundation. And it started to just kind of sink in, I think, just a different way of viewing people and their belief systems. And none of that really took hold in the way I behaved until after my experiences in corrections, living in a place that was different than what I had grown up in, different than what I had known, a day-to-day experience that was almost like an ethnographic study that was very different than what I was used to. And then went through that decline of just a major depression and finding my way back out of that and knowing that every single step out of that was a choice and choosing it over and over and over again. And every single day, it's a choice. It's like to choose my dream, to choose believing in myself, to choose helping others. And we have this one conscious known life where it's like, it's going to have challenges no matter what. Like, it might as well be towards the thing that lights me up, that's exciting, because what else is the point? Like, do the stuff that lights you up, because when you're a bright light, that's when you can shine on others. That's when you can help others. We always think like, okay, well, I want to serve others first. How are you going to be able to serve them and help them so much if you can't even like handle it yourself? And so finally it was like, after all of those different steps, all those kind of general concepts of like, oh, this is, where beliefs actually come from, and they're thoughts that we've convinced ourselves are true. And the way that we decide what new beliefs we want to accept and take on are based on like the value systems that we have from the principles of how it is that we want to experience life. And just all of these different paradigm shifts. And it's just changed the way that I see things and perceive things and then handle and react to things.
Absolutely. Well said. Very good. Sounds like, I mean, you literally, I feel like you're in my brain.
Oh, maybe I am.
It's crazy. I asked a question, I expect an answer, and I'm like, that's exactly what I was thinking. Like, exactly to the point. It's crazy. We're on the very similar vibe. Cool,
That's
man.
awesome.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting. All this stuff's so interesting, and being able to portray it on video and get your message out there and be able to impact more people via video. This is the
Yes.
secret to the whole game nowadays. Everybody's on their phone, they're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're doing lives. Video is the thing. Um,
Oh, that reminds me.
yes.
Sorry, do you mind if I? Oh, so it just, yes. So we're talking, I was like two things that are just kind of different in the way that I teach things.
Mm.
And I want to share this distinction because I am an actor and I've actually been an acting coach and helping pull the genuine truth and the story out of someone as though you are like stepping into that role, into a character role, is very important for camera work. Like, it's, we can get into the technical things like knowing your angles and stuff like that, but you have to be able to serve the story in a way where the audience believes you. Like, you have to find the conviction and the rooted truth in what you're saying so that it becomes powerful in a way that it can move your audience into the next action that you need them to take. And that's really how you kind of merge, just the kind of concept of believing in your message and being authentic into the practical, tangible business side of it, where you can actually shape your message in a way that's compelling, that's captivating, that's motivating and inspiring your audience into taking that action that you need them to.
Ooh, that's awesome. Yeah, no, yeah, now we're not speaking the same language. Now you're blowing my mind.
Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, true. It's awesome. Okay, so speaking of which, tell us a little bit about your business. What is it you offer? What kind of services do you have? Talk to us about that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. I do work with a very, very limited amount of one-on-one clients, and I don't advertise it anywhere. It's just if you message me and I have time, we'll see if we make that work. But
Love it.
my main focus is I have this awesome, awesome group coaching program that's called Captivate on Camera. That's really merging the internal and the external together and putting it in that entire business framework of how to truly integrate video into your business plan and doing it in a way that's authentic and that's powerful and that's genuine to you and helping you use your voice in the way that it's meant to, that it really needs to be heard and shared. And so right now, and I believe I shared the link with you, I have a free training video series that's a perfect place to get started to see if that's the right fit for you and to give you some just great tips and insight on like the technicals of how to really get jumping into video through this free training series right now, which is a great place to start.
That's amazing. I love it. Yeah, that's linked down in the show notes. So go check that out. You don't want to miss
Awesome.
that. And so yeah, Kelsey, I could chat with you all day about this stuff. I love it. It's
I know,
awesome.
I do too.
It's
So good.
very it's so real. You can't get away from the camera. It's looking right at you and it's capturing you. So if you understand how to actually put your true self forward, you can massively impact your business and your life in general. It'll help you
Yes.
grow as a human, right? And that's
Yes.
what you're
Yes.
helping people do, which is it's cool. It's inspiring. It's valued. It's needed. And yeah, you have a very bright future. It's awesome. I love it.
Thank you.
Cool. So
Appreciate that.
yeah, my pleasure. I love having you on. This is an amazing conversation. We'll have to do it again sometime, right?
I would love it. This is so much fun.
Yeah,
Thank you.
very good. Cool. And yeah, and I've just started incorporating video into the podcast as we were talking about. So you're going to be one of the very first. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make it official. You're going to be my first video produced podcast person. Yeah, right. It should be the video person
I
on the
mean,
video.
that's so on brand. Come on. Like,
It
that's
has to
great.
be. It's a given. It's a given. So that's it. It's official. You're the first one. Oh, that's awesome. I'm excited.
I'm so honored. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you'll see it on Instagram. That's where
That's
you'll
cool.
yeah, yeah. So speaking of Instagram and social media and websites and things, where can the listeners and the viewers come find you?
Yeah, I'm mostly hanging out on Instagram. So please come like DM me, say hi, please, if you can share, like take a screenshot of this or something and share it and tag me. It's like a virtual hug. I really, really love it when that happens. I'm at Kelsey_Moore. And I will soon, I just polled my audience and I asked them what they would like to see from me for next content. And I asked TikTok, podcast, or YouTube channel. And I should have seen this coming because it's video, but the 90% said YouTube. So I will also soon be starting a YouTube channel.
Amazing. Yeah, you can find that all in the show notes. She's down there. Go check her out. Jump into that free video course because that is essential to your business. If you're not in business, it's essential to your life. And I have a sneaking suspicion there's a lot of personal development intertwined in there. So that's also just extremely, extremely important just for human growth in general. So it's amazing. Thank you so much for being on the Growth Podcast, Kelsey, excuse me. That's a nice ending to the podcast. Shot of coffee. Thank you for being on the Growth Podcast, Kelsey. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.